I am Ray, and if you're tired of living this way, keep watching. Because today I will show you the way out. How dare these robots return at this time? Now, if you're going through tough times right now, you'll probably have some resistance to believing whether or not I can help you. You see, the way our life is set up is who we are, our identity, and our state of being influences how we act. So, if you have an identity around playing soccer, guess what? You can play soccer. And when you play soccer, if you're feeling really good, you're going to play better than normal. And if you're feeling really bad, well, you're going to have to try a little harder if you want the same result. And that goes for everything in life. So the secret is, if you look at what you have right now and you're not happy, well, guess what? You're good news. You are good news because now you know how to change it. At least the hypothesis is life is a reflection of us. And a lot of people won't take that responsibility. They'll say, no, it's that person. I'm not doing anything bad. Whatever. Most people get stuck on this side of the equation, which I call the slave side. I call this the free side. So, a lot of people live in survival. A lot of people are desperate. A lot of people need help. But their only method of escaping their situation, the only tactic they have, is to do more so they get something different. Like, for instance, if you're living in the ghetto, what do? You try to work hard so you can get enough money to get out. You want to have the money, and you want to have out. And so your actions, you grind it until you find some success. That's the default method that everyone lives by. And, well, it's the only one that people know. Good thing you're here. Because what I did, and I'm sure it's going to work the same for you, is instead of focusing on getting what I want, instead of focusing on all my desires, instead of focusing on getting out of where I am, I began to point this arrow backwards toward here. And what happens when you stop prioritizing the results, which is not bad to have, you want the results, it's just you don't want to be stuck on that hamster wheel of always needing to grind to get what you want. You want to become the version that already has what they want. And that version feels in a way that is alignment with what they want. So, easy example. You want money. You try hard to get money. Instead of trying hard to get money, you focus on feeling abundant. See what I mean? You continue to just focus on the feeling of abundance. That's all you do. You don't worry about the external circumstances. You don't worry about the result. You don't worry about how it's going to happen. Everything is already taken care of. Because guess what? The more abundant version of you already acts and thinks and feels in ways that are abundant. So the process is automatic. It's like how Myron Golden said one time. He said, failures aren't trying to lose as much as winners aren't trying to win. Winners just win because that's who they are, and losers just lose because that's who they are. But you can change who you are. You don't have to be stuck there. So if you have a loser life, you can become a winner. And it's not that complicated. It's just that there's not even an attempt for a lot of people. If you just made the attempt, it would happen most often. Now, I'm not saying always go make the attempt. Like if you want to be a NBA superstar and you're 5'4", well, probably don't waste your time making the attempt. So if I was in a bad situation, I would focus on my state of being over everything else. I would focus on maintaining my peace, maintaining this feeling of safety and security and certainty even. But if you're on this side of the equation, not going to happen. You're going to be ruled by fear. Because there's going to be a lot of things that you don't want. And there's going to be a lot of things that you do want. And with that desire comes suffering. Like currently you have what you don't want. So you suffer. The only problem is every time you don't get what you want, you suffer. And there's going to be a whole lot of times where you have what you don't want. And when you don't have what you want. So it's not a winning strategy. Being on this side means you're always going to get pulled all over the place by your circumstances. Any little information that begins to conflict with your desired result will send you into frustration and desperation and control, We're so busy trying to control the outcomes, we don't realize that life is just already happening. Life is happening by default. But we want to get in the middle and say, yes, I'm doing everything. Look at me. That is why this side is automatic and this side is manual. If you focus all your attention on setting up the system in the first place, well, then you don't have to struggle to get the result. The result happens automatically. But this also goes against our fundamental way of perceiving the world. Because why does this change? How does changing your state of being and your identity change your life? Well, it's simple. There's causes and there's effects. This is the underlying cause of the effect, your life. And there's a whole chain of events that happens in between. So if you want to change your life, change your situation, and start living a better life, you got to focus on this side of the equation. Otherwise, it's a never-ending battle. You're gonna put one fire out, another fire will pop up. Problems after problems after problems, always dealing with problems. Now, for some personalities, that's the way they need to live because they have so much energy, they have to tackle and destroy problems or else they will go crazy. Some people are cut out for this side of the equation. I'm not even saying that it's necessarily wrong. What I'm saying is that these are two different paths to the same outcome. On this side, you work and you work and you work until your work changes who you are. Until who you want to be is who you are. And you do that through the work. But what happens is that when you go through this, when you start changing your actions, it changes how you think about yourself. And it changes how you feel about yourself. And those changes who you are. So that whatever it is you're trying to receive is a natural process. Like you start broke. I'm broke. Then you work really hard. Now you identify as a hard worker trying not to be broke. Go from broke, trying not to be broke, and then eventually you take so much action, you get the result. You see the result with your own eyes. You start to feel abundant because now you're seeing results. Now you become a more naturally abundant person, which makes it easier to receive abundance in the future. The only problem is, if you start to lose it, guess what? Right back down to lack and scarcity. Because you're living from your senses. You're living from sense data. And if you do that, you will always be a slave to what you perceive. But when you focus on this, you are consciously ignoring the sense data that is in conflict with what you want. For example, it doesn't matter if you have no money in your bank account. You can use your imagination to feel like you are abundant. Right now, you can do it. You can think a thought. Can you not? Can you not think? And you can think any thought you want. That's the power of your imagination. And your body doesn't know the difference between what is real in the world and real in your imagination. It's all real. That's why you got to be careful what you think about. Because if you think about the past over and over again, you're re-traumatizing yourself every time you think about it. Your body thinks you're going through that situation again and again and again. You went through the experience once, it was over for all eternity. But you kept the experience alive in your imagination. We're doing that all the time. Whatever you hold in your imagination will make you feel certain ways. So if you're thinking negative, well, guess what? You're going to feel negative, which is going to cause you to, act in negative ways and receive negative results. Therefore, the problems that we have to go through and experience and deal with. What I'm speaking about is a very different way of living than how most people live. You focus on state of being and your circumstances don't matter. So you will into existence what you want by focusing on it long enough. And you stop focusing on the things that contradict your desired reality. Because if you allow the fear and worry in, it lowers your state of being, causes you to act and think in worse ways, leading to subpar outcomes. Now, here's the thing. We're going from living outward focused to living inward focused. Drown out all the noise of reality and you focus on this, your state of being. So let's say you're currently in a situation that is not going well. This is what you got. There's going to be a big urge to try and control the situation and do the most. You're going to want to do a lot because you'll feel like if you don't do something, nothing's ever going to change. But instead of taking so much action in the world and trying to force your reality to be different, you just focus on being differently. And really what we're doing is we want to cultivate a feeling of safety. Because here is the problem. If your life is going really bad right now, well, chances are you're in survival. Talking about your chakras. Root chakra, out of balance. Fear and survival. And that survival mechanism is what is causing the negative things to happen in your life. There's a co-creation going on where because of the lack and scarcity, let's say, that you feel, and the lack and scarcity that is seen in your reality, they're co-creating with each other. You feed the lack and scarcity. This lack and scarcity gets worse. It makes you feel more lack and scarcity. Therefore, you have lack and scarcity. That's all it is. It's just a very mathematical, simple process. If you have the outputs that are not what you want, it's because you didn't put in the inputs right. Like if you want number 3, you got to do 1 plus 2, 2 plus 1, 3 plus 0. There's not just one way to get the result, but you have to have that balance. The left side of the equation is a reflection of the right side. Always has to be balanced. And so too, there is blueprints of how to live your life that will result in certain outcomes. Now, we can't always predict what outcomes are going to take place, but you can give yourself the best shot. And in the age of information, there's really no excuse. Because you, in your particular situation, well, somebody has already gone through that, overcome it, made YouTube videos about it. So all you got to do is listen to what they do. Follow the blueprint that they followed. Or at the very least, you need that piece of information that makes you more aware. That's what I'm doing here. Because when you are made aware of new information, it changes who you are. It changes how you think. And how you think changes how you feel. And how you feel changes how you act. You realize the error in your ways. Like if I want 3, I can't just type in 4 plus 8. That is the error of my ways. So I say, oh, okay, just course correct 3 plus 0 or whatever. For example, let's say you want financial stability. If you want financial stability, you got 2 choices. You got the slave choice or you got the free choice. The slave choice says, well, I'm going to go find a good job. And then that's it. You're going to work at the job, get this financial stability. Ta-da! But what I'm saying is instead, you have to change the story in your mind to feel stable and safe right now. And then everything else takes care of itself. So you don't have to figure out, oh, I got to get this job. I got to do all these resumes. I got to do this. I got to do that. It's all irrelevant. It's already taken care of if you operate from this side. Because what will happen if you want financial stability, well, you might choose the wrong job, stay there for 10 years, and you wasted 10 years thinking you were doing the right thing to get what you want. But you could save yourself all that misery, feel safe and stable now, and the right job will fall into your lap. That doesn't mean you're not going to go searching, maybe, but it's going to be an automatic process instead of a one of struggle. And the fact is that even if you work your butt off to get financial stability, well, if fundamentally you're still living in lack and scarcity around money, you're just going to revert back to the default. You're always going to lose your money and you're going to sabotage yourself. And that's how you know where your energy is coming from, by the result that you experience. So if you have poverty, I'm telling you, you don't have to believe me. Ignore everything. There is no reason for your poverty other than your own energy of poverty. You are giving off poverty energy, so life is reflecting back to that. And it's not that hard. You just pay attention to the words that you speak. If you're living in poverty, guess what? You're always going to be ruminating on how in poverty you are, because that's the story you believe is true. You're trapped in this box in your mind, made up of stories. You're trapped in the story. You got to get out of the story if you want to get out of the situation you're experiencing. And you either change the story by, taking massive action, or you just change the story. So if I was struggling with financial stability, how would I go about this? Well, the story that I would play is that everything is already taken care of. Therefore, there is no reason for me to worry about it. It's already done. God has already taken care of it all. Now, what if you don't believe in God? Then what? Well, it doesn't matter. What matters is your energy. Life is neutral in a lot of ways. It's just reflecting back to you the energy that you have. And until you change your energy, nothing's going to change. So you just got to find a way to feel stable now. And you can't do that if you're paying attention to what you already have. Because if you only pay attention to what you have, you'll get just more of the same. And that is why in the manifestation community, we talk about being delusional. Why? Because you have to suspend disbelief. This is why in the Bible it says, for those who have more, or those who have, more will be given, and those who have not, even what they have will be taken away from them. Because if you only know poverty, that's the energy that you have, and so your life will reflect that energy. And if you're born into abundance, you will receive more abundance. Is it just some cruel way that life is set up? No. Some people give off the right energy, some people give off the wrong energy. If you're not getting what you want, you're giving off the wrong energy, done, period. Now, here's the thing. If you're not experiencing the fruits that you want, whatever you believe, throw it away. It doesn't make any sense. Like if your life sucks really bad, it doesn't matter what you believe. Nobody cares what you think. Your opinions are irrelevant. Sorry. And I don't mean that to beat you up. It's just, why would anyone listen to you if your life isn't going well? Whatever hypothesis you've had about the right way to live, failed experiment. Got to try a new hypothesis. Try to live this way. See if it happens. See what results that you get. Like a scientist. So all we're doing is we're testing hypothesis. It's like in No Country for Old Men, when the villain at the end of the movie, he was about to kill someone. And he said to that someone, he said, if the rule that you followed led you to this, of what use was the rule? Like everything you believe to be true, your frameworks of seeing your reality, your beliefs, everything has led you to this death. So, what use was it? You will be known by your fruits. Because the cause and the effect are directly linked. There is no separation. And, again, religion is saying, here, there's a step-by-step way to get to God. Did you know this? And if you follow the steps, this is what you will get. That's the hypothesis. You test it out. You don't just believe stuff willy-nilly. It's like how atheists, they always talk about evidence of God. I don't got no evidence, so I'm not going to believe nothing. And so they just kind of assume, I think, that, 4 billion people or plus don't have evidence of God. Doesn't make any sense. Atheists are some of the least logical people, even though they pretend to be. Because if you're a logical-minded person, if you have reason, you test the hypothesis. You see if it works. You don't have to just for God's sake. We're living in an age where we no longer have the luxury to just rely on the experts about everything. You have to have direct experience because there's so much information out there, you don't know how to shift it. How to sift through it, I mean. What's true, what's real, and this is why people hold on to certain religious beliefs, certain religious frameworks, because you need it. You need that order, you need that structure to guide you to where you're going, and you can't be messing about with all of these distractions. Because if you mess about with the distractions, you're just going to be left confused. So, for example, some people say, I'm a Christian, the Christianity is the way, and that's fine. Or some people say Islam is the way, and some people say Buddhism or Hinduism is the way. That's great. Doesn't matter. What are your fruits? What you say is irrelevant. Sorry. Every teacher, every preacher is a hypocrite. Fundamentally. Even me. Because we're being forced to put God in a box and speak about it as if it's the truth. And you can't. God is unknowable, fully. You can only experience God's radiance. But you cannot know God with your mind. You cannot know God intellectually. And that is like the source of all horrible things that have been done in religion. Because people speak about things they haven't actually experienced. And that's the danger of teachings. The reason that believing in God, worshiping God, or even just learning about God, what it does to you, even just doesn't matter what you do. Focus your mind toward God, whatever that means to you. It doesn't matter. Because the fruits will be the same no matter what religion you live by. It doesn't matter. Every religion is designed for different target audiences. That's the point. Not everybody resonates with a particular religion. Some people grow towards Christianity, some people grow towards Hinduism, some people grow towards Islam because of their personality traits, not because of there is one eternal truth. There is one eternal truth, and none of the religions are correct. Precisely because of the hypocritic nature of words, that we put God in a box and say, this is the truth. We take a relative truth and we make it absolute. It doesn't make any sense. So whatever it is you believe, whatever it is you think, look at your life and say, are my beliefs and what I think leading me to what is good, to a better life? So you get to the root of the problem. You know the problem is your identity. It's the stories going on in your mind that are causing you, they're causing your energy to be a certain way. So all you got to do is change the story, and you change the way you feel. That's what religion does. It says, you're living at default. I got to do everything. I got to work really hard. I got to make money. I got to do this. I got to do that. That's the default state for everyone. You learn about religion or about God or about spirituality. Doesn't matter. And immediately, what is the new story? What is it? The new story is you don't got to do anything. It's irrelevant. God has already taken care of everything. Don't think about it again. Don't question it again. Don't even concern yourself with any other possibility. And what having that kind of faith does, it makes you feel safe no matter what you go through. It makes you realize that no matter what, God is always taking care of you. Takes care of the flowers and the birds. Why not you? Well, that's the trick. God is always taking care of you no matter what you think, no matter what you do. It doesn't matter. The only question is, how much are you in the way, muddying up everything? That is the problem. You got to be free from yourself. Your self-imposed prison that is your own identity. Because it is your identity that led you to this. And if what this is not good, what purpose are those stories? What purpose is your beliefs? They aren't working for you. So you got to give them up. Or at least change. And this literally goes for everything. Like, for example, if I want a relationship, I want a relationship. But, because most people are living in lack and scarcity, they got to do a lot. They got to go and approach. They got to do all of these kinds of things. Go out every day to go and try to find a relationship. And what happens is that you hit or miss. 9 out of 10 are misses. 1 maybe hit. But when you approach it from this side of the equation, you work on yourself first. And the right person will come along. Now that comes with faith and trust and patience. And instead of you doing anything, it's just waiting. And you might say, well, you can't just sit here and wait. Well, it doesn't matter. If you're not the person you need to be in order to make that relationship work, what's the point? You're going to drag yourself through suffering, mess it all up, and then what? Now you're left back at zero, worse than you were before. Because you forced a reality. You forced something to be that you wanted to be true, and it wasn't. Your energy has not changed. So it doesn't matter what you get. If you're living from fear and worry, it doesn't matter if the best person in your whole life comes into your life. You will ruin it. That's why they say, God shapes you before he gives you what you want. Because if you just got what you wanted, you would throw it all away, like winning the lottery. Most people are living in lack and scarcity. They win the lottery, now they have all of this abundance. But it doesn't change their energy. They're still that beggar within themselves. And therefore, they are worse off years later than when they began. Like, if you think that winning the lottery is a good thing, you are sorely mistaken. What makes you think that you deserve all that money? Because if you deserved it, you would have it. Same thing with a relationship. Same thing with money. If you're not embodying the energy of abundance, of love, you're always going to make a mess of your life. Because the source from which you are acting and thinking and feeling is not the highest. It's less. And you'll see that in the people you meet. Where are they rooted? Are they rooted in ego and body and worldly things? So that when you see them, when you look in their eyes, you can see that their consciousness is dimmed. Their light is dimmed within themselves. So all they focus on is monkey stuff. And you can see it in the eyes of someone who knows God. The light shines forth because they're rooted in something higher. You feel the truth when you hear it. And you feel ignorance when you hear it. So you got to ask yourself, what is the story you're telling yourself right now about what your situation is? Are you ruminating on negative thoughts? Well, then stop it. Because if you want the fire of your suffering to go out, you got to stop pouring gasoline on the fire by ruminating on negativity, by entertaining these negative stories, by entertaining these negative self-beliefs. I'm this kind of person. Why come to any conclusion? Because you're imprisoning yourself to that box. And so long as you're imprisoned in a box, you're not seeing reality clearly. Therefore, you are missing important information that prevents you from getting what you want. It's not that hard. You just gotta find someone who has what you want and just kind of listen to what they believe. Listen to what they say. You don't gotta believe everything. You just gotta kind of reflect between yourself and them. And not in a way like, oh, you're so much better than me, I wish I was you, but in a way like, do my beliefs and the ways that I think, do they align with this individual? Do they? Do they align? And if they don't align, well, then that's why you don't have what they have. Because their stories and their beliefs and their identities led them to where they are, and yours led you to where you are. On the surface level, there are right ways and wrong ways to live life. And again, that's like a whole of religion. Religion says, hey, if you live this way, you will be in God's good standing. And if you live in this way, you will not. But what does that even mean? What does it mean to be in God's good standing or not? Well, anything that creates suffering is not being in God's good standing by definition. That is what sin is. The mind is a pointed tool like a bow and arrow, and sin is an archery term that means to miss the mark, meaning you missed where you were pointing. You weren't exactly accurate. And what that does is that separates you from life itself and brings you closer to death, which is why they say all sin is death. All sin leads you to death. And if you follow God or Christ, you will find eternal life. Congratulations. Now, I've never met anyone who understands sin, other than what, certain religious text they say. We just kind of parrot what we think is true. But this is what sin actually means. This is what they were talking about. So we can remove the religious aspect of it and think about it practically. Because if you're an atheist watching this video, which I highly doubt it, well, it's not fair to say, well, believe in God and that's done. Because you don't have that option, for whatever reason. But every religious concept is grounded in practicality. It's grounded in truth. And all that is not grounded in truth it'll just fade away over time. So don't think that because religion's dealing with the spiritual stuff of life, that it can't also be practical in your daily life. In fact, if whatever spiritual things you believe are not practical in your daily life, just give it up. They're a waste of time. And that's a big problem in the spiritual community. We talk a lot about ideas. Well, how do those ideas actually affect our life now, right now? And people get trapped. Too intellectual, not enough action, not enough doing things in the world, not enough living. That's one spiritual trap. Now, you can imagine there's this scale between heaven and hell. And we are all somewhere along this scale. We're either growing closer to heaven or growing downward. And for all intents and purposes, sin leads you to hell. Let's just call it virtue, lead you to heaven. Now, what does this mean? First of all, your mind is a pointed tool. But what is the tool? What is its purpose? The mind is designed to direct the flow of energy. So, not even the most atheist person to the bone would deny that we have energy. Because we know what it's like from direct experience of when we have energy and when we don't have energy. How do you feel when you don't have energy? Answer me this. You feel lethargic. You feel like death. You don't feel like living. You don't feel like doing much. And this happens at a micro scale and a macro scale. Like every night, you use up your energy for the day. You don't have motivation or desire to do all that much. You just want to rest. You just want to relax. You want to go to sleep. You want to enter into the mini death of sleep. And that restores your energy, your life. Energy is life. So you got two choices. You either focus on things that are life affirming or you focus on things that are death affirming. And anything that is life affirming brings you closer to peace, love, and joy. Now you get heaven. It's not that complicated. Is an atheist going to deny that there is such thing as peace, love, and joy? No, because we know that it exists for a fact. But do we know how to get these things? Most people don't. Because most people are unhappy. Why? Why are they unhappy? Because they don't know how to use their mind. So the religions have to come along and say, oh, this is how you do it. And still people have trouble. We overcomplicate things. Everything in your life, everything that is not neutral, because a lot of things are neutral. Whatever it is you think, whatever it is you do, whatever it is, whatever story you got going on in your mind, it's either bringing you closer to peace, love, and joy, or it's making you stray further from that. There's two buttons, there's up and there's down. And if something is neutral, well, it doesn't move you around. But if you focus on a story like, oh man, I'm struggling so bad, guess what? That's going to make you feel like you're in hell. And you might say, well, no, I am in hell. This sucks. No, it's your interpretation of your reality that's killing you. As the Buddha once said, there are two arrows we get hit with in life. The first arrow is the arrow of being in form, just living a life, being in a body. You're going to stub your toe, you're going to feel pain. But the second arrow is the suffering that we inflict upon ourselves through our reaction to the first. So you get to choose how you react. And that determines whether or not you go up or down. You either have a positive mental attitude or you have a negative one. And when you look at the people, look at their lives, you see a clear pattern. You see a clear pattern of the kinds of things that lead you toward hell. And you don't have to believe in hell. Don't be silly. Hell is not a religious concept. It's a state of consciousness that you will find yourself in at some point in your life. And if you don't, well, I don't know if you're lucky or not lucky. But hell is suffering. And everyone experiences suffering. But what causes suffering? What is it? What brings us close to hell? What are we doing wrong? It's simple. So simple. The more you're living in ignorance, the more you're in hell. The more you're living in truth, the more you're in heaven. So the more accurate the stories in your mind that you're playing, the more accurate they are, the more you will experience peace, love, and joy. And the more inaccurate they are, the more you will experience suffering. That's all it is. And every religion, nobody's gonna contradict this, because they're all talking about the same thing. It's just now it's being portrayed in modern language in a way that's not pushing away people who are not religious minded. This is why I love certain philosophies like Hinduism or even Buddhism, because it's all about reason. At least like Advaita Vedanta, it's about reason. It's not about faith and belief, although that's not a bad thing. And this is the thing, you got to experience it for yourself. So all you got to do moving forward is just point your mind in a little bit better ways each and every day. And that's how you escape these terrible life situations. If you have 99 things going wrong in your life and you focus on the one thing going right, you can pull yourself up out of any situation, no matter what. And if you have 99 things going right, focus on the one thing going wrong, you ruin it all. Hell for you. Now, my framework for understanding sin, it's completely just logical and based off personal experiences. So it means that you should theoretically be able to experience this too, if it's true, which it is. The mind is a tool that directs the flow of energy, and we know that energy is life, intuitively. For example, if you have a lot of energy, you feel alive, you feel doing a lot, you feel like living a lot. And if you're depressed and you're miserable and you have no energy, guess what? You feel like dying. Life, death, polar opposite energies. And, well, whichever energy wins, whichever energy dominates in your life is the energy that you've been focusing on. Cause and effect. So, it's not that difficult to agree that life is energy. That mind directs this energy. And what you will experience, if you pay attention, when you point your mind in negative ways, in any way that separates you from life, you will feel suffering. Anytime you point your mind in a negative direction, it means sin, and it means you lose your energy. And anytime you focus your mind in the right ways, you gain energy. Now, this is very simplified, but we're talking about overall. Meaning, you can go to the gym and work really hard, and that's gonna lose energy. And afterwards, you're gonna be really tired. You're gonna feel like relaxing, going to sleep maybe, nap. But overall, you gain more energy. You lose energy on the front end, you gain energy on the back. And so too, you can engage in some temporary pleasures and gain a little bit of energy up front, feel good, and then feel bad afterwards. So don't fall into the trap of, I can't look at negativity, I can't follow my negative thoughts, I can't deal with this, you're negative. It's not about the surface level thing, it's about the underlying framework from which you approach. Like, for example, if you're dealing with a problem and you're focusing on it, you're trying to figure it out. Well, if your intention is to figure it out and grow and evolve, well, that's not focusing on negativity now, is it? even though you're focusing on the problem. So you got to be wise, you got to trust your own understanding. You can't just follow words and accept them willy-nilly. So when you lose your life, you grow closer to death. And hell is the experience of being consumed by the force of death. And heaven is the experience of being consumed by the force of life. The nature of life itself is joy, peace, love, and abundance. And to what degree we are connected or disconnected to life determines how much we suffer. So all we got to do is start pointing our mind in more ways that are life-affirming. Now, I can give you things to focus on, but the fact is that you're going to have your own unique journey, and I can't tell you what to do. So you're going to tap into your inner compass. It's called your emotional guidance system. So you see with your own eyes. You pay attention to how you feel on a daily basis. You just check in with yourself. Am I feeling good? Am I feeling anxious? Am I feeling bad? And you just begin to associate certain feelings with certain things. Like, for example, you know you feel better when you go to the gym. So you know, going to the gym, it brings you a little bit of peace, maybe love, maybe joy. It just makes you feel overall better. You know that you've risen in your state of consciousness after you've gone to the gym. And you know that by how you feel afterwards. Whereas if you drink a bunch of alcohol and engage in a bunch of temporary pleasures, how are you going to feel afterwards? You're going to feel like poop. So you know that what it is you focused on, in that moment you missed the mark. You gave your life to death, and death has consumed it and eaten it, and you are left without it. Until you regain your life. I mean, why do you think people with depression commit suicide? Because they no longer have the desire to live, because they are lost of their life, their energy. All that has happened is that their energy has become hemorrhaged for so long, focusing on things that are not helpful. That's all it is. Focusing on thoughts that aren't helpful. Now, that's most of it. Because you can engage in addiction all day, every day. But again, if your mind is pointed in the right direction, it doesn't matter. You're already going to where you need to go. And God will, you got work to do. You got things to overcome. Addictions, temptations, karma. But if you can have the right attitude about it, it's not gonna destroy you. I like to say, those who surrender to the fire do not get burned. And what that means is that when you're going through some tough times, you're either going to flow through it with grace, or life is going to drag you along kicking and screaming. It's going to be really ugly. Everybody's going to laugh at you. And this is the change we have to make. We got to change the story in our mind to serve us instead of destroy us. Which stories give you relief, give you freedom? And the story is just another step along your journey. It's not necessarily the ultimate truth. Because at the final teaching, there is no stories. There is nothing. There is only silent presence, peace, love, and joy. So the attitude adjustment that has saved me, it helps me all the time. I'm sure you've heard it before. Now, what I am saying, my claim, is that everything is working out perfectly for you already. I'm claiming that that is the truth. That you're already being taken care of in every single way imaginable. And how aware you are of this truth, well, it determines how much fear and worry that you have. Because if you think that life is against you, well, guess what? It will be against you. I promise you that. Because that's what you're focusing on. You're believing it into existence. So you're going to focus on thoughts that reaffirm that negativity. You're going to go down to the store, and somebody's going to take a little bit too long in the checkout, and you're going to say, I hate people. Why is this person making me wait? Stupid things like that. And that is ignorance. The more you're living in ignorance, the less aware of this truth you will be. And this isn't a philosophical thing. It's an actual experience. It's actual wisdom that you express through your actions. And it's a muscle that has to be built. So for example, if you get a bill in the mail, how much you're living, depending on how much you're living in ignorance, depends on how much you worry about the bill. Imagine that. Because most people think that that's the real world. This reality where things are happening, that's the real thing. And it's not. The bill is irrelevant. But it's relevant to the person. And because you're attached to the person, the identity, the stories, it pulls you along. But in that moment, you feel the fear come up. You feel the worry come up. And instead of just moving on with your day, you focus your awareness on that feeling. And you just be as present as you possibly can with that feeling. And that neutralizes it. Because what you resist persists. If you're fighting the fear, if you're fighting the worry, if you're fighting the situation, oh no, I gotta go manifest, then you're messing up your energy. You're getting entangled in the situation and your energy is going all over the place. You gotta find stability in your energy, congruence in what you believe. So what happens is that you feel the fear. You don't let it continue anymore. You be present with it. You don't reject it. You don't say, oh, this fear is bad. I gotta run away. Something's wrong. Just feel it. Don't judge it. Emotions are not meant to be judged. They're meant to be felt. And in that moment where you feel fully the difficult emotion, you repeat to yourself, everything is working out perfectly. It's all good. No need to worry about it. You give yourself a little pep talk, like, hey, we were living in lack and scarcity before, but now we're living in abundance. And you put a smile on your face. Because if you smile, you tell your body there's something to be happy about. You trigger a happy response by smiling. So your body listens and says, oh, something good's happening. What's good happening? It's the reassurance of what you want that's happening. You're teaching your body, look, it doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter if there's a bill in the mail. It's not relevant to me. I'm living in abundance. I could pay this bill 10 times over. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Because God's bank account is infinite abundance. So talking about figures and, I don't know if I'm going to have enough. I'm going to have to work these many hours. It's all irrelevant. All of it distraction. One thing that matters is being, your state of being. When you start entertaining this story, there's going to be experiences that contradict it, that are going to come along and say, do you really believe that? Is that really what you think? Here, let me try to prove you wrong. And life will try to prove you wrong. Because there's a force of resistance that doesn't want us to be exposed to the light. And that is called darkness. So there's active forces in this universe. Divine intelligences that are specifically designed to keep you from the truth. To keep you living in darkness. And in Christianity it's called Satan. In Buddhism it's called Mara. In Hinduism or whatever. You get it. I call it the monster mind. And it doesn't want you to be free. Because once you're free, it can't influence you anymore. That's the way that life was set up. And you want that. You need it. Because if you got rid of the villain, well, you would also get rid of the hero. And there would be no story if there were not a hero. So you flip your mind to realize that even the darkness is helping you. That even the demons are helping you. Because they can't help it. Their whole job, the forces of darkness, is to manipulate you into illusion, into ignorance, because that's the only power that they have. So we talk about, spiritual warfare and stuff. Well, you're only dealing with spiritual warfare so long as you're in ignorance. Because once you come to the truth, there's no more war. There's only peace. This is why I don't talk about really like demons and stuff, because that's a lower level narrative. It's a lower level paradigm. And this is also why I avoid being too attached to my beliefs. Because all beliefs fall short. All beliefs are lesser paradigms than the truth. The only thing that matters is the truth that you experience that is beyond words. You can't share it with anyone else. You can only lead people and hope that they find it. And once you find it, you will know what I'm talking about without needing us to speak a single word. But you have to be open first. You have to be curious. Otherwise, the gravity of the world is going to pull you into it. Your senses, it's too vivid. It's too much. It's too real. That's why we believe it to be real. I mean, if life was obviously an illusion, we wouldn't believe in it. It's like a cookie. A cookie looks like it's tasty. It hijacks our biology. But it's really just, there's no substance to it. So what happens is that once you begin just allowing this narrative to enter into your life, just with curiosity, like what if everything was working out perfectly? What if? That alone, that question, what if, will begin to change something in you. And every time a situation happens that doesn't reflect that everything is working out perfectly for you, that's the opportunity to reaffirm your certainty. Because there's going to be the animal instincts in you that are saying, no, we got to be afraid, we got to be worried. Because that's your animalistic nature. It's designed for survival. And in those moments, you got to choose the higher path. You got to choose love over fear. That's all it is. Every moment, You choose. You get to make that choice of love or fear. The fear of not having enough, the fear of being not good enough, those things do not serve you, which is why they cause suffering. But what is it like to feel enough, to feel like you're worthy now, in spite of all of your ugly parts? Well, guess what that makes you feel? That makes you feel love. You become the source of love rather than trying to take it from outside of yourself. The only reason you don't experience love is because you do not accept certain parts of yourself. You are the commander of an army that is experiencing mutiny, conflicting things within you, fighting with each other, this inner conflict, this inner war. And you as the president, the commander, aren't doing your job in making sure everyone is accepted and on the same page. So you got a part of yourself that likes drinking alcohol, and you know it's not good for you. You're a sinner, but you have to love the sinner in you. You have to love everything about you. You have to love your darkness, even your evil. Doesn't mean you embrace it and say, yes, I'm evil now. But you cannot get rid of any one of the parts without also getting rid of the whole. This is what people don't understand about God. People say it all the time. I love your pinky finger, God. It's so amazing. But your thumb? Oh, can't be having that. It's like we love the good parts of life. The parts that are fruitful and enjoyable and love and peace and joy, but you don't love the suffering, now do you? Why? It's because your biology is designed to pursue pleasure and avoid pain. We don't like the darkness, and yet darkness is equally as part of God as is the light. That's what people don't realize. And that is one of the big, I'm not going to say criticism because it's too harsh, but it's a little bit of a problem that comes up in Christianity and Western religions. And it doesn't happen in Eastern religions. In Christianity, there's a bad guy, there's a good guy. There's dark, there's light. And you got to follow the light. You got to follow the good. And in Eastern religion, many of the deities contain with them both the light and the darkness. So you don't know. They're ambiguous. Are they demons? Are they holy saviors? Who knows? And people who, follow that religion know that, okay, they're actually good. They're not demons. But you can see how the psychology affects us terribly. Which is why in Western religions, there's a lot of shame and guilt. Especially around things like sex. Abrahamic religions are the most repressed sexual people probably on the planet. Why? Because there's a fundamental narrative of rejecting your earthly nature. That it's bad, that it's keeping you from God. And it's truth. There's truth to that. It's true. But there's also ignorance in that. We are taught to reject ourselves, and that is not God. That is not love. That is the opposite. And it's not that you have to believe it, it's just your fruits will show you. When you find yourself in hell, oh, I guess that wasn't the right way to do things. I guess I should try loving myself. See what happens. Maybe you should try also loving your enemies. Ever thought of that? Why? It's because when you're judging people, you're polluting your mind peace. Has nothing to do with the other person. You're destroying your own peace. And you'll see that we're doing these kinds of little micro negative things all the time. We find ourselves judging another person, judging ourselves, entertaining these negative stories, these negative beliefs. You got to be aware of those things. Because until you're aware of them, how much can you do? You can do nothing. Because you don't even know what the problem is. You don't even know what's going on. Life is just happening. What happens when you believe this full-heartedly? You feel safe. You feel loved. You feel like, a big burden has been relieved from your shoulders. Thank God. How nice is this? And once you feel that relief, you're like, oh, I'm not going back to the other stuff. Because the other stuff made me feel bad. This makes me feel good. Now, does it matter if it's the whole truth? Well, the hypothesis is, if something is true, it will bring you closer to love, peace, and joy. And if it's not true, it will separate you from that. So we live in this dichotomy between ignorance and truth, between darkness and light, between heaven and hell. And it is only the things that you focus on that determines whether you go up or down. Nothing else. Because nothing else makes sense. If life itself, if its nature is peace, love, and joy, and abundance, when you have more of it, you will feel more joy, love, peace, and abundance, would you not? And when you have less of it, you experience more suffering. And that is the most logical argument I can come up with of how you are led to hell or how you are led to heaven. With no beliefs, nothing you have to take on faith, because if you have to take it on faith, It might be true, it might not. And two, well, it's not fair. It's not fair. Like, this is the only way to get to God. But that's just because people don't understand what this means. They don't understand. We're only living through our temporary human perspectives. Like looking at life through a keyhole, most of everything is darkness. Most of everything that we are is ignorance. And if you've never experienced or tasted God, you don't know how to bring others to God. You don't. But see, that's my superpower. Because I can lead a Christian to God. I can talk to a Muslim, lead them. I can talk to a Hindu, lead them to God. A Buddhist, lead them to God. Nirvana. In any religion, I can bring you to the finish line. Because I'm not bound by beliefs. The foundation of my existence is rooted in truth. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm always right, but I can give you what I have. I cannot give you what I don't have. What I have, most certainly, is peace. So I know the causes that lead to the effect of peace, so I can walk you through the process. If I didn't know about the process, I could not do it for you. I could not give it to you. If I did not know the way to heaven or hell, well, then I couldn't speak about helping you prevent yourself from falling into hell. And I couldn't speak on how you can go to heaven. But because I've experienced it firsthand and I can reliably bring anybody, if they're open, then what doubt am I going to have about my understanding about reality? If it works, if these are the fruits, it must mean the initial cause was correct if these are the fruits, the effects. So we kind of go from living philosophically about all of these kind of ideas. It's a big problem with like the New Age. All just hilarious. I was watching Dexter, the TV show. In the second season, one of the characters gets all into like manifestation and that kind of woo-woo stuff. And that's stuff that I teach everyone. Teach it very strongly. I'm like, maybe Nero Knowledge has got some competition. I don't know. But when I would hear him talking the TV show, it just sounded so silly. It's funny. And you hear it when people talk about it. Like, they're just parroting stuff that they heard. They don't actually understand it. So it comes off in this like, what you're saying is stupid. I don't get it. It's like a business teacher in college who has never run their own business. It's just words. And sometimes they land and sometimes they don't. So be very careful about just believing things without actually having experience. Because that is what leads you astray. And that is teachers that lead you astray. Which is why I tell you so heavily, trust in your own inner guidance. Because what worked for me may not necessarily be what works for you. So you got to take what you feel is the truth and what you're ready for and let go of everything else. Because if you don't let go of everything else, it's going to distract you, make you more confused. And this is the big trap you don't want to fall into. Like, Ray, he said this. This is what he said. He said this. And like, who cares what I have said? If you try and just believe what I say without understanding it yourself and experiencing it, it's no use for you. Forget about it. Get rid of it. Even if it's true, get rid of it. Because you will force it not to be true by misinterpreting the understanding or misinterpreting the teaching. So the only way you will change, the only way you will be free, is not by watching another YouTube video. It's about taking the information in the YouTube video and seeing how you can apply it in your daily life. And if you prioritize your state of being in focusing on feeling abundance, on feeling safety, on feeling good about life and about yourself, everything else will take care of itself. But if you focus on the world and getting what you want and the desires, never-ending Ferris wheel. Because you're living in ignorance. You assume that what you want is outside of yourself or in the future. Like, once I get out of this poopy situation, once I get more money, once I get a better job, once I get a car, once I get this, once I get that. Not happening. Not happening. Every time you accomplish something new, you start at the bottom. You climb one mountain, then you find yourself at the bottom of a next mountain. And then once you climb and finish that one, another mountain. Never-ending mountains. You are the source of what you seek. You are the source of love, peace, joy, and abundance. But it's just how aware of you are that. You're either lost in ignorance and you're not aware of that at all, or you're coming into the truth where that's becoming more and more obvious. It's really quite simple. Something either brings you closer to love, peace, and joy, or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, well, you just got to start paying attention. Like, oh, now there's something to address. Doesn't mean you're just going to stop, because then you'd be some holy person like, oh, I can just quit anything at any moment. I'm the best. And at the end of the day, eventually, you'll throw away the beliefs as well. They like to say, well, you can't take your Bible to heaven. Too heavy. There is a point on your journey where you must let go of all concepts. Because so long as you're holding on to the concepts, you're stuck in ignorance. Even if that ignorance is closer to the truth than other things. Truth can only be experienced. It cannot even be taught. So don't just get obsessed with more concepts. More concepts. There's billions of concepts for you to deal with. None of them are going to lead you to the promised land. But some concepts can lead you to the truth in you. Like how a map can lead you to where you are going. But the map is not the territory. The map is not the end. You just use your inner compass. God is always talking to you. God is saying, hey, stop doing that. Hey, do this, do more of this, and you will be good. Everything's going to be good. If you just listen to me, for Christ's sake. And we have to kind of wobble throughout the world and fall on our face over and over again until we realize that the way that we do things isn't really how it works. It's not really that good. Because as an ego, we're always living in ignorance. Because the source from which we're living is ignorance itself. This is what people don't realize. Even if you're awakened, even if you're really, deep into spirituality, so long as we believe in separation, we are living in ignorance. And perhaps so long as we live in this life, we're living in ignorance. There is suffering. And sometimes that suffering looks like not experiencing love. So suffering isn't just pain. Suffering is the absence of love, peace, joy, and abundance. Separation from God. It's like the Bible is talking about. In the beginning, Adam and Eve were one with God, so they were living in paradise, and then they ate from the tree of the fruit of the God, good and evil, duality, separation. They became separated from God, realized that they were naked. Now they experience themselves as a separate being, away from God. Original sin is ignorance. We've been struggling with it ever since. The ignorance is you do not exist as a separate individual, and that, my friend, is the key to everything. Because the more selfish you are, the more you will find yourself in hell if you are imbalanced. The only way to be selfish is to have selflessness on the back end. The more you're thinking about yourself, the more you're thinking about your own suffering, the more you're so obsessed with me, my story, my thing that I'm going on, my beliefs, my opinions, my me, the more you're going to experience suffering. Which is why if you focus on other people's suffering, you suffer less. Experiment, try it. The mind is the cause of our separation. It's what gives us a sense of separate self. And where there is no mind, there is God. Where there is no self, there is Christ. The self. So there's the ego, the little I, big ego, big self, Christ. God within you. It's all about working through our particular karma that leads us astray. Our tendencies, our personalities, the stories, everything. We got to work through it. And you just look for more productive ways to go about your life. That is all. And yes, it's hard when you're living in darkness because there's no light around. It's just suffering. There's just death, pain, misery. There's only hell. But if you can hold on to the light, if you can look for it, you will find it and it will bring you out from that suffering. Because there are causes and effects in this life. Life is very mathematical. And only people who have the results can show you the way. And if you don't have the result, stop talking. Because you're leading people astray. Now, of course, we're human. It might happen every once in a while. But you gotta realize that's going on. You gotta stop speaking about what you don't know about. So when people come and try and help you and say, hey, this is my advice that I'm going to give to you. It's okay, But are they living their best life? Are they living the life that you would want to live? If you're around other suffering people, why would you listen to them? They don't know what they're doing. Only people who know the way can show you the way. And I'm just showing you the way that I know how, the path that I've traveled. And that is all. And what I found is that love, peace, joy, and abundance are the default state. You don't need anything to be at peace, but you always need something to take away your peace. And what separates us from these things is the mind and the mind stuff. And, Patanjali in the Yoga Sutras made it very clear that yoga is about removing the mind stuff. And when you remove the mind stuff, guess what is left? When you remove the ignorance, there is truth. When you remove all the unloving in you, there is love. When you remove all the conflict that you're entertaining, there is peace. It is when you are hungry that there is no satisfaction. because the hunger overrides the natural satisfaction that is already present. And when you eat, what has happened, the reason you feel content and satisfied is not because you ate. It's because there was no more desire. The desire fell away, and therefore the default is comfort or satisfaction. It's like if you really want love, guess what? You're saying to yourself that I do not have love. But when the desire for love fades away, what does it mean? It means you have love. Because those who have love don't desire love. They're already living in abundance. Maybe you could want more, I guess. But you're coming from a place, a higher place, than from lack and desperation and scarcity. So you become the source of what you seek. If you want your life to change. If you want love, you must become love. You already are love. You have to realize the illusion that is keeping you from love. And that is your stories, that is your beliefs, your opinions, your mind prison. All that separates you from everything you've ever desired is a single thought. And that thought looks like a giant mountain, but it's really just, really small. So what you can do, you get out your journal, or just a piece of paper, it doesn't really matter. And you just start making a list. And you check it twice. You could do it 2 sides like this. On this side will be good. This side will be bad. Now, what I've discovered is that it's all in the mind. It's all just thoughts. For example, people talk about pornography. Everyone knows pornography is bad. It's not good for you. It's undeniable, right? Wrong. If you judge porn as bad, which is you have every right to do so, if that's a problem for you, if you're addicted to that, well, you just screwed yourself over royally. And that goes with any addiction. It doesn't have to be this. This is a good example. Because your thoughts about your actions will cause so much more suffering than your actions will cause. The more you feel like you've done a bad thing, the more you're going to ruminate on the story about how you're doing bad things. And yet you can just as quickly change your attitude toward the situation and use it for your empowerment instead of your self-destruction. This is what we mean by changing our attitude. By looking at things in productive ways instead of self-destructive. So you can go all day long, oh, I'm such a bad person. Why did I do this? I was doing so well. I hate myself. I hate life. I really wish I need a new streak. 9 days, 20 days. All of this psychological drama that is a distraction is just noise. When you can judge that thing and say, well, if I'm experiencing it, it means that God needs me to experience it. And you get out of the psychological drama of, I'm the one engaging in the sin, and this is going to separate me from God. Oh no. There is no separation from God. It doesn't exist. It's an illusion. But we don't experience God every day, all the time. Why? Because we're living in ignorance. Because if you were living in truth, you would see God everywhere. You would not say that your religion is wrong and my religion is right, because you would see the truth everywhere. That is what people don't realize. Life, for all intents and purposes, is neutral. It's what you make of it. As Viktor Frankl said, the last of the human freedoms is to choose one's own attitude toward their circumstances. And he was in Auschwitz. Obviously bad, no? And you see why people have trouble with this. What, Auschwitz wasn't bad? Are you lying to me? You liar. It's not about it. Not about that. It's about using what happens to you for your greatest good. And you always have that opportunity. So it doesn't matter what happens to you. It doesn't matter what you do. Engaging in addictions. It's just the next stepping stone towards your highest spiritual growth. Because if you were living in truth, you would realize that there is no separation from God. There is nothing you can do that separates you from God. On your spiritual journey, you will deal with these things like heaven and hell and sin and all of these different things. But at the highest truth, there is only one. Both the light and the darkness are equally valid toward the truth. So whether you experience darkness, whether you experience light in your life is irrelevant. It's how you respond to those situations. Another kind of example is like, imagine if you're someone who's really about going to the gym. You're really disciplined, right? You have that identity. Well, if one day you don't feel like going to the gym and you follow that feeling, you're going to feel like you betrayed yourself. Why? Because you did. Your identity was around being a gym person, and you didn't go to the gym, and you know you should have done it. Now you're going to feel shame and guilt. Why? You didn't experience shame and guilt from not going to the gym. You experience shame and guilt for the story you're playing in your mind. There are plenty of people who watch porn and don't ever go to the gym, and they don't feel guilty at all. Because they don't have an identity around those things. Around not being those things. Only when your identity comes in conflict with what you do is there conflict. This is why Ram Dass said, life is pretty easy for those who have no preferences. But how do you have no preferences? That's the key. So long as you're living in duality, you're living from ego, which is identity, mind identity. You are living in ignorance. You will not be able to help but run away from pain and pursue pleasure. But once you realize that you are beyond that the truth is beyond good and evil, that there is no separation, you fully immerse yourself in the truth, and life begins to unveil itself in a certain way for you. And these truths just pop up. Like if I tell you, hey, we all one, but you're living in separation, well, that doesn't make any sense to you. You can intellectually understand it. Everything is stardust, star energy. Doesn't mean anything to you because you haven't experienced it, because you haven't found the truth within yourself. The only way you will know the truth when you hear it is if you find the truth in yourself. Otherwise, you're going to manipulate the teachings and be led astray, because those who are living in darkness, they got nothing. It's just the blind leading the blind. What are you going to do? You can't help but make the wrong decisions. So we must seek the truth in ourselves if we wish to live in the truth. And stop thinking about all of the philosophies and stuff like that. There's a lot of distractions out there. And you go throughout your day and you pay attention to those stories and you say, do I want to keep living this way? Forget your circumstances. Pay attention to your stories that you're telling yourself about your circumstances. Because what you will find is that without the psychological drama, there is no problem. There is no conflict. The problem only arises because of the drama in your mind. That's all. That's all it is. And when you get rid of the mind stuff, what is left is peace, love, joy, and abundance. So every day, day by day, you follow that inner compass. When life is telling you, hey, you've become temporarily disconnected. And when life says, hey, you're tapped in, do more of that. I don't think I finished this point. So you just write down, hey, I did this, it made me feel good. I entered into a flow state. I enjoy this. And you look at, okay, this thing I'm doing isn't really making me any happier. It's actually making me worse. And you just make a list of all the things that bring you to peace, love, and joy, and abundance. And you just make note of all the things in your life that are causing you suffering. And this alone is the beginning of the end. Because you cannot be aware of how much suffering something is causing you and continue to do it. We only engage in things that create suffering because of our level of consciousness. How much are we living in ignorance? Like the cookie. How much do we believe the cookie is good for us? Because it tastes good. And how aware are we of how much suffering the cookie causes? It makes your tummy upset. So you say, oh, well, it's probably not good for me. Maybe once in a while. And all you do, and it's self-motivating. So it's not like it takes a lot of work. You just become aware of all the things that, make you feel good. And you just do more of those things. That's all it is. You just take your mind, begin pointing it in a little bit better direction every day. And before you know it, you're living in the truth. It's exponential. Because once you see the light, you ain't going back. Promise. Once you see, you can't unsee. And you don't have to stop all of your addictions and all of the things you know are wrong, self-destructive behavior. You just gotta realize that it's causing you suffering. That is all. So don't get in that psychological drama. Don't get caught in this drama of, I gotta get rid of this addiction. I gotta get rid of it. I gotta get rid of it. Because that's what your animal body is going to be telling you. You gotta resist a little bit the pull toward that story in your mind. And the good news, I'm telling you, you have permission to engage in that addiction. Now, don't go destroying your whole life, for God's sake. But what I'm saying is bring your awareness with you everywhere you go. Which is why I said tap into your inner guidance. Check with yourself throughout the day. The more you become aware of the suffering that certain things cause you, the more they fall away effortlessly. You don't have to try to get rid of the addiction. If you raise your state of consciousness, you no longer resonate with that lower energy. So it falls away naturally. That is the way that I've done this. Because, well, trying to do it the other way didn't work. So I found what worked. That is being non-attached. You stop feeding the fire. You stop pouring gasoline on the fire of your suffering. You start pouring water on it. You stop entertaining the negative garbage. You start entertaining love, peace, joy, and abundance. You stop doing what you think you have to do. You're being forced to do things you don't want to do, and that's causing you suffering. And you start doing more things that you actually love. And even if you're in a bad job, let's say, you can change your attitude toward that bad job to make you experience more peace, love, joy, and abundance. It's just your attitude that's causing all the suffering. Because life is always right here, which means that peace, joy, love, and abundance is here. It's just how connected or disconnected we are to life. And why is this? It's because life can only be experienced in the present moment. And the mind pulls you out of the present moment and causes you to ruminate about the future, ruminate on the past, judge your current experiences, judge others, judge yourself. Perpetually separated from the present moment, perpetually separated from life itself. And where life is not, death is. Like when you turn the lights off to a room, darkness is what remains. And the more we are separated from life, the more we get consumed by death until eventually we either take our own life or do something bad. We become a vessel for death and destruction in the world, and now you understand why all the tragedies happen the way they do. Why evil people are the way they are. All it is you focus your mind in negative ways long enough for you to get possessed by the force of death and become a vessel for death in the world. And now you know Christ. Christ's one pointed toward God. Therefore he brings forth heaven to earth. He is a vessel of life and truth. And you better hold on to those words for dear life. Because most everyone is living in ignorance. They don't have it. They don't have what it takes to figure it out on their own. I don't think anyone does. But so long as you seek, you will find. God's not going to deny you. But you got to love God. You got to love. You got to want to be connected. More than you want your temporary pleasures. That's the whole game. And it's just an awakening process. You become more and more aware of the things that aren't serving you. And more clear about the things, the right path, the right way. And all it is a course correction every day. It's a little bit this way. Like a plant that knows when it's growing closer to the sun or straying further away. And all that's left to do is walk the path, one step at a time, one day at a time, one moment at a time. And everything else will take care of itself. But you have to change the way you point your mind. Because if your life sucks, the only reason is because you haven't been skilled. You haven't trained yourself to point your mind in the right directions. The mind is a tool. A tool can be, you can practice using that tool. Like you're not magically going to be, the first time using a hammer, you're not going to be, someone building houses. So be patient with yourself. Realize that this is a skill to be built. A skill of training yourself to use your mind in more productive ways. And every time you just get a little bit better at pointing your mind in a little bit better ways, you will feel a little bit more peace, love, joy, and abundance. A little bit more relief. And it's just this shedding of ignorance from then on out. Until all that is left is the truth. I am Ray. Much peace and many blessings. And remember, just be